Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin, live in New York. To our viewers watching around the world, this is State of America tonight. Try these descriptions on for size, if you would be so kind. Paralyzed, another week lost, past the point of coordination. Every day, a fresh new hell. That's how sources are describing the state of the White House and those working in it right now. This after the bombshell news of the president's son not only meeting with someone billed as a Russian government attorney during the election, but also one that promised to serve up damning information from the Russian government to help Trump's campaign. But if you ask President Trump, things couldn't be better. Here's a tweet. The White House is functioning perfectly, focused on health care, tax cuts, reform, and many other things. I have very little time for watching TV. If that's the case, then he may have missed this, his eldest son's mea culpa on TV last night, here on Fox News.
In retrospect, I probably would have done things a little differently. Again, this is before the Russia mania. This is before they were building it up in the press. For me, this was opposition research. They had something, maybe concrete evidence to all the stories I'd been hearing about, but they were probably underreported for, years, not just during the campaign. So I think I wanted to hear it out. But really, it went nowhere, and it was apparent that that wasn't what the meeting was actually about.
But maybe more importantly, Don Jr. made sure to say that he kept his father in the dark.
Did you tell your father anything about this?
No. It was such a nothing. There was nothing to tell. I mean, I wouldn't have even remembered it until you start scouring through the stuff. It was literally just a wasted 20 minutes, which was a shame.
Now, if that wasn't enough, the president's personal attorney made the rounds on morning television again. He might have been watching television, or maybe he missed this one too, on morning television to drive that exact point home repeatedly.
I need to be clear about three things here. Number one, as I said, the president was not aware of the meeting, did not attend the meeting, and was only made aware of the emails very recently by counsel and had not seen the emails. In fact, I didn't see the email till yesterday, and I'm one of the lawyers, so there you have it.
Or maybe you don't. The congressional committees investigating the Russia election matter are hot to get Don Jr. and the others that were in that meeting under oath and before their committees. That's not just Democrats, but Republicans say it's time for some answers, too.
I don't know if you use the word scandal. It's certainly a huge controversy when you have allegations of people having conversations with Russians about the political campaign. I think that's fairly serious information.
So that was the sentiment on Capitol Hill today. A tough backdrop to be sitting down to for the president's new pick to take over as head of the FBI. Christopher Wray right there, though he promised independence.
If I am given the honor of leading this agency, I will never allow the FBI's work to be driven by anything other than the facts, the law, and the impartial pursuit of justice. Period. Full stop.
And if that didn't send a loud enough message in light of what happened to his predecessor, try this one on for size.
No one should mistake my low-key demeanor as a lack of resolve, as some kind of willingness to compromise on principle, because anybody who does would be making a very grave mistake. And there isn't a person on this planet whose lobbying or influence could convince me to just drop or abandon a properly predicated and meritorious investigation.
Likely music to the ears of both Democrats and Republicans, but still, Wray faced pointed questioning during the confirmation hearing from even the friendliest of senators.
Do you believe that in light of the Don Jr. email and other allegations that this whole thing about Trump campaign in Russia is a witch hunt? Is that a fair description of what we're all dealing with in America?
Well, Senator, I can't speak to the basis for those comments. I can tell you that my experience with Director Mueller...
I'm asking you, as the future FBI director, do you consider this endeavor a witch hunt?
I do not consider Director Mueller to be on a witch hunt.
Thank you.
Once again, don't tell President Trump that. And he may have missed it if he didn't have time to watch TV. But he did tweet just as recently as this morning that very same tagline, defending his son, saying, "This is the greatest witch hunt in political history." I guess stand by to see how that plays out if and when Christopher Wray takes over that very important post at the FBI. None of this is a laughing matter. There's no laughing on this show, as you know. Just kidding. But that did not stop the senators from trying.
of the proctology exam. We are calling back to order the confirmation hearing of the nominee to be FBI Director, Christopher Wray.
That's Senate humor for you. On advice of counsel, I'll refrain from adding anything to that. Thank you so much, Senator Sass. Sass, I said. I know. Let's get to it. And that takes us right back to the White House, which is, depending on who you talk to, either at a complete standstill or chugging along beautifully. Caitlin Collins, she joins me now from the White House with much more on this. So, Caitlin, what is the mood over there right now?
That's a great question, Kate, and it does depend on who you ask. Most advisors and staffers have said that things are very tense in the West Wing as they are surrounded by turmoil after these emails were released yesterday. The president has hardly left the Oval Office, choosing instead to huddle with his close advisors and watch how this is playing out on television. He has had 0 public events scheduled this week. He met with the evangelical leaders in the Oval Office on Monday, and then yesterday he had one meeting with H.R. McMaster and other national security advisors. But other than that, he has had no public events scheduled. Now, that's a rarity for a sitting president. If you ask the president on his tweet, he said that the White House is functioning perfectly and that they are moving along with health care and tax reform and that there are no problems. But that's not what the mood is for a lot of White House staffers. They think that this Trump Jr. scandal is creating problems for their agenda, and it's just another lost week for this White House. Now, the president leaves tonight to go to Paris, where he will meet with the French president tomorrow and hold a bilateral press conference. But that's the first time that we're going to hear from him where he will answer questions on Don Jr. Instead, yesterday, he sent out Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders to discuss this and read a statement on his behalf. Now, she read this statement where he said he stood by his son and that he thought he was being transparent, but she did not answer any other questions on the scandal.
Yeah, but I mean, we need to reinforce the point, as you say. He heads to Paris tonight. He's going to be holding a press conference tomorrow. That will be a very big moment in a very strange setting, but he will be to be answering questions about his son and that Russian meeting back at Trump Tower. But nonetheless, that will be the first opportunity that reporters will get it, and you'll be sure, depending on who he calls on, you'll be getting those questions tomorrow. Caitlin, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up for us, high quality. Words I might use to describe new furniture or a rug, or definitely not a person, and certainly not my child. But that is how the president came to his son's defense after his bombshell revelation. So, do they now have a high quality defense? The panel is next.
Hi, I'm Michael Wood, host of TNT's Will podcast, the official companion podcast of TNT's new series, Will, the story of young William Shakespeare. Every Tuesday, join me for an exclusive, in-depth episode discussion with the show's executive producers, Craig Pearce and Shekhar Kapoor. We'll pass fact from fiction in Shakespeare's backstory and reveal the hidden details that fans may have missed on first viewing. It's a true behind-the-scenes look from an insider's perspective. TNT's Will podcast debuts July the 11th. Subscribe now with Apple Podcasts or on your favorite app.
The president breaks his silence. His son defends himself. Their attorneys try to play cleanup. And meantime, the White House is paralyzed, stuck in the mud, I guess, while the controversy swirls. The panel tonight with me. Political consultant Harlan Hill is here. He's also on the advisory board for Donald Trump's re-election campaign. Angela Rye is a CNN political commentator and former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. Mary Catherine Ham is a CNN political commentator and senior writer at The Federalist. And Reed Wilson is a national correspondent with The Hill publication. All right, friends, let us get to it. Reed, this reporting, Jeff Zeleny brought us from the White House, and we've heard it. People are hearing it in different fashions, right? But the word paralyzed is sticking out today, that the White House is paralyzed. The Russia investigation, though, I mean, it's as old as this administration. What is different this time?
It's getting worse. The president's own son is now embroiled in this. He has released an email that clearly shows that he went to a meeting that he knew was engineered by the Russian government, or at least he was told it was engineered.
Exactly.
Even if it wasn't, he was told that it was.
Yeah, that's how it was built.
The fact is, this is creeping closer and closer to the president's inner circle. It is something that is not only distracting from his agenda, and let's all remember how many elements of his agenda he's gotten through so far. Absolutely nothing, and we're a few weeks away from or the delayed August recess. But the fact is, this is another, not just another distraction, it is the biggest one by far.
At a very bad time to have a distraction when they're up against deadline after deadline. But the president has broken his silence last night, but defended his son today on Twitter saying that Don Jr. is open, transparent, and innocent. This is the greatest witch hunt in political history. He's used witch hunt before, but it was before there was concrete evidence of something that Don Jr. did he went into a meeting looking at least open or willing to be getting dirt from someone billed as a Russian government attorney. How is it a witch hunt if it came from the son?
The son himself, yeah. No, here are the two things that I think are different. One, that it is his son. I think the fact that Donald Trump's children, once they get involved, makes it more personal to him and makes it closer to him and his fortunes. And two, that they have been hanging their hat on the idea that there is no evidence that we worked together with people allied with the Russian government who wanted to help us versus Clinton. Like, there may have been meetings, but they did not lead to this thing. That email string, even if it's not part of the global conspiracy, the larger thing that Russia was trying to do, says essentially there's a Russian-aligned person who is offering you this opportunity to work with the Russian-aligned folks to do this, and he says, I love it. Like, that is fairly clear, and it's close to the president. So even if it's not exactly the conspiracy people have thought might exist, it is problematic, and it is wrong.
And the response from the president, Harlan, though, he said witch hunt before, right? But calling it a witch hunt this time, it strikes me because, as we heard today, someone else who does not think it is a witch hunt is the man that he has now tapped to be the next FBI director. Christopher Wray said very clearly that he does not think that it's a witch hunt at all. I mean, how can both can't be true? It's a witch hunt or not a witch hunt. Why would the president keep harping on it?
We can't conflate these two things. I believe that there is a witch hunt on behalf of the media and the Democratic establishment to go after this president and try to irreparably tie him to Russian collusion, whatever that means.
But what's the other thing that that folks are complaining?
Those are not the same thing. The movement on the left and what the special counsel is doing are two different, distinct things. And so I wouldn't conflate those. I think that's a dangerous precedent.
The one that can end up with him in legal jeopardy is the one that is not.
I'm not going to stand here and I'm not going to predict. I'm not going to forecast what's going to come out of the special counsel. They have access to evidence that we just do not. His tweet is directly responding to Don Jr. talking about what came out of Don Jr.'s emails, and he's saying this is a witch hunt. Well, at this point, the only thing that we have to work off of is what we're doing here collectively. We're sitting here and we're talking about the politics behind this. But the only thing that really is going to matter is what comes out of Mueller's office. And ultimately, Don has said that he made a mistake. He said last night that he would have done things differently. But you know what? Taking a meeting is not criminal. Being duped by someone that happened to be Russian is not. I hear you over there. Being
fine.
Duped.
You're going to hear me louder in a moment.
Well, at least let me finish, and you don't have to mutter under your voice.
I will.
But
please,
look, being duped by a Russian, being duped by some Russian isn't criminal. It's not treason to have a conversation with somebody that's Russian. And so this has gotten way too far. This has gone way too far.
I will tell you this. I keep hearing everyone who wants to defend the president go to criminal and illegal. The only thing that I've been talking about, and I think most people I've seen on TV talking about, is it appropriate and what does it mean? And that's one thing that strikes me, because this whole evolution, the evolution of the defense for the president has started as there were no meetings at all, okay? That's now gone. Then there is no collusion. And now it seems that, well, there was a meeting and there was at least a willingness to collude, but that is not illegal.
Okay, that may be true. What you're saying is that people that you're talking to on TV are not making this a criminal issue, but Democrats on Congress are. You know, Sid Blumenthal and others have made really, really strong statements about this that are tantamount to treason, and those allegations are dangerous. I think they're inappropriate, and they're not substantiated by the facts.
And the treason remarks may have gone too far. Absolutely, I'm just wanting to make that distinction.
That's fair.
Kate and the Democrats. There's only two options.
Kate.
There's only two options, obviously. Angela. Here's one thing I do want to ask you about, because the issue of was it appropriate, that has come up over and over again. George Stephanopoulos on ABC, he did I would say, a masterful job in trying to get that question answered by President Trump's personal attorney today. Listen to how he answered it.
Does President Trump believe it was appropriate for Don Jr. and Jared Kushner to meet with that Russian lawyer after receiving those emails?
Well, look, the president, I got to be clear on this, George. The president wasn't aware of the meeting, did not participate in the meeting.
But I asked you if the president thinks it was right, if he thinks it was appropriate.
Well, it's not illegal. I mean, I haven't had the conversation with the president whether he thought it was appropriate or not.
He gets that email and says, I love it. The president believes that's appropriate?
No, I didn't say that. The president was not aware of this, George.
How is that helping the president or anyone involved?
It's not helping the president. In fact, the same attorney was on with Chris Cuomo earlier today, and the answer was worse. Like, you saw him literally unravel in 1 minute and 44 seconds. I think the real challenge here is it doesn't matter whether or not Donald Trump knew that this was happening. You have 2 ethics lawyers that worked for George W. Bush and Barack Obama who said that it's not just wrong, it's not just the appearance of wrong, it very well is illegal. Those are what these lawyers are saying, these ethics lawyers. The other thing that I think we should address is that it's not just a legal standard that you have to uphold when you're in the administration or even running a campaign. Obviously, it looks like, he could have broken campaign finance laws as well. The real challenge is you also have to be governed by ethics. And whether you're working on the Hill, as I worked on the Hill, or you work in the administration, you have to be you are governed by ethics rules and standards. They have run afoul of those rules and standards. So these 2 lawyers, this is a bipartisan commentary, have said that this particular individual ran afoul of the rules, and they would have reported Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. to the FBI.
Here's the thing, though, and I'll return to this, Rita. I want to get you to weigh in. Where does this go at this moment? Because the evolving defense has not helped the credibility of the White House and the president. We don't have to play the sound bites, but it's a million sound bites saying there were no meetings. Then it was there is no collusion. And now we truly are at a place where we're saying there was a meeting. There was a willingness to collude. He would have liked to do it differently, but he didn't. And now that's not illegal.
And the initial statement that they put out on Saturday that was apparently approved by the president himself said that the meeting was about adoptions, and then it was about sanctions. And so all of these defenses, I mean, I'm having trouble. If I call the White House for comment on a story, how do I know that they're telling me the truth?
Forget illegality. How does this help on a PR front?
Right.
To get it out, get it all out there. Everyone has said that from the beginning. Get it all out. Everyone say every meeting they've had, or if they've ever even talked to anyone named Boris,
including Trey Gowdy. Yesterday,
that was a good line, actually. I just Boris profiled. I apologize. Mea culpa. But that's not happening, and it won't happen, it appears.
That was not your line, that was Trey Gowdy's line, in her defense.
Right, but
defend me.
Rule number 1 of crisis communications is get out in front of the story and tell your own story and make it true. Because every time we knock a hole in this about a meeting that didn't take place until it did, about a meeting that was about adoptions until it wasn't, it ruins your credibility for the next big thing that comes down the road. The next email that comes out, why are we going to believe anything that they say?
Mary Catherine, stand by. You get the first on the next round. Coming up, it's sucking the oxygen out of the room. That's how one frustrated Republican is describing the impact of the ongoing Russia scandal. Is it suffocating the Republican agenda at the very same time, or is that a convenient excuse on Capitol Hill? We'll be right back.
Thank you for listening to the CNN podcast. In order to better serve you, we are conducting a short survey. To help us, please go to cnn.com/podcast survey. And to get more podcasts from us, just search CNN in iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
How much that all this Russia controversy is overwhelming things here for you guys? How much of it is it becoming
sucking the oxygen out of the room? Everybody knows that.
And when it sucks the oxygen out of the room, I mean, does that mean that you guys, this agenda is essentially undercutting the Republican agenda?
Sure. I think it's very difficult when you have this overwhelming barrage of new information that unfolds every few days. I think it's obvious.
That is Republican Senator John McCain, clearly frustrated with the constant swirl of controversy coming from the White House. So, if Russia's sucking the oxygen out of the room, what is Congress going to do about it? Back to the panel. Mary Catherine, see, I kept a promise for once. Is the Russia controversy, is it stalling the agenda? Do you accept that as true?
I actually don't, because I feel like this is the same level of noise that they've had throughout. And whether I actually do think the story took a step, but I'm not sure it took a step in media attention to it. So I think they've sort of been at this level. What they're trying to do is really hard. They may have bitten off healthcare, which is the hardest one of the things they want to do, as the first thing. And it has been really tough to get it to thread that needle and to get moderates and conservatives on board. So I think that's most of the issue. This is not an optimal environment, but it was always the environment you were going to be. It was never going to be the optimal way of running an agenda when Donald Trump is the president and Paul Ryan is at the head of the House, because there was always going to be a gap between exactly what each party wanted and how that was going to work.
Absolutely. And so healthcare obviously is. It's nowhere at the moment. Talk to me tomorrow. But tax reform, we don't know where it is at the moment. Don't say that to the president, though. The White House is functioning perfectly, focused on health care, tax cuts, tax reform, many other things. And he has no time to watch TV, which I totally appreciate. But I appreciate someone taking the sunny side of things. We need that more in life. But because the president says it, does not make it so.
Well, the White House can be functioning fine, and the Capitol is not. Speaker Ryan took over health care reform very early. The White House basically outsourced that. They understood the parameters that the House had to work under so that the president would sign the bill. They haven't been able to deliver. This is on Paul Ryan. And I want to know what exactly Paul Ryan, I mean, I've said this before on this show, and I'll say it again. What has he been doing for the last 6 years? You know, what were Republicans doing for the 8 years of Obama? And, you know, when they were in control,
they didn't have a plan when they got in power.
And they kept saying that they did.
60 times.
They kept, exactly. And look, I have a real problem with that, and I think the president does too. And I think that we're sick and tired of establishment Republicans not delivering. And their positions on Capitol Hill are tenuous at best, because this groundswell of the new Republican Party that sent Donald Trump into the White House and renewed hopes for the Republican Party will not stand to reelect them if they don't deliver now, this year.
Would the politics of it, would healthcare move along faster if the president was more outwardly focused on it, or not having to face this Russia scandal all the time?
No. Like, the reality of this is, sarcastically saying is 60 plus votes, but they tried this already. It doesn't work. And I'm not sure, I know that you changed parties. I'm not sure if you were a Democrat at the time or not. But the reality of it is it was hard for Democrats too. Yep. So to Mary Catherine's point, like, you can't expect to do anything except for be honest with the American people.
Democrats didn't do that part.
I think that they really tried.
You can keep your doctor and your insurance.
Yeah, and then John McCain just said the same thing about pre-existing conditions.
So you're saying they did lie, and also John McCain is lying.
No,
yes,
what I'm saying,
that's exactly right.
What I'm saying to you, Mary Catherine, is it's a bipartisan issue, and access to health care is a bipartisan problem.
That's not what you were saying. You were saying the Democrats have not
lied. I didn't say they didn't lie
about
anything. I did not say that there was never a point where
if we're being honest, politicians lie. That is breaking news.
Right.
Read.
But this administration came in with fewer plans to actually do any specific thing than any other Republican who might have won. If Jeb Bush had won, he would have come in with 500 pages of policy plans for the Interior Department and for HUD and for all of these different departments.
Right, so Paul Ryan did a town hall on this on CNN.
It's not on
Paul Ryan did a town hall on CNN.
Hang on, read his final word.
The point is, though, the power is shifting from the White House to Congress. It's been bleeding towards the White House for 50 years, ever since Watergate.
So now it's going back.
Now it's going back a little bit. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have the ball. Can they advance anything? They're still working. Ted Cruz was in a meeting on healthcare today. He didn't even get to the FBI hearing. So, things are happening.
Bleeding. A lot of blood left places in Washington, and that's not, I'm not trying to be morbid, I'm just saying politically, that seems to be what we're looking at. Great to see you all. Thank you so much. This is day 174 of President Trump's administration. That's the State of America tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Hey, before you go, we wanted to let you know that we just launched the ability for anyone to advertise on CNN podcasts. You're just a few clicks away from reaching millions of people in a way that you never have before. Advertise for a business, event, or kick off an awareness campaign for your brand. Start today at purewinning.com/CNN. Integrating podcasts into your marketing mix has never been easier. We'll even tell you how to save 15% on your CNN campaigns for the rest of 2017. Go to purewinning.com/CNN to get started.